continuing now through season 3 with Bendless Love. Now, we tended to think of some of the weaker episodes of season 3 as The Lil of Our Own or The Route of All Evil. And I'm watching this one again, and I did used to think this sometimes. I think this is one of the potential weak episodes of the show. I don't think it's necessarily... It doesn't do anything egregious, although I want to say this is one of the most unmemorable episodes of the first 4 seasons.
Yeah, I was never the biggest fan of Flexo either.
Yeah, we were talking about this in The Less of Two Evils, which I'm a big fan of.
I kind of like this episode, but like in theory, but the fact that Flexo's in it kind of hurts it a bit. Like some of the bits that I really like Bender being a scab, and flashing his cash and pissing off the mafia.
That's funny.
Like there are a few funny things like that in the episode, which if it was in another episode, it just work as well as it does here. It's just this episode has a few things I feel that lets it down. Probably the worst case is it's sort of, lack of memorability, I suppose. It sort of just fades into the bunch.
Never seems to rise to being extremely, funny, I don't think.
Yeah, it doesn't have...
It's not unfunny, but it's not funny.
Yeah, it's not like one of the most consistently funny episodes. Like I mentioned, there's only a couple bits, like Bender being a scab. A few things, but yeah, most of it's just... Bender romances tend to not be that funny. Like, they can get a few funny jokes from Bender out of them, but... Like, even I'm not the biggest fan of that Titanic episode, but that's better than this, I'd say.
I would say so too. I quite prefer, as far as the Bender romance episodes go, I quite like season 4's Love and Rocket. I don't know how you feel about that one.
Yeah, that's one.
I'm rather fond of
it's
that one.
It's better than this one. That's not my favourite episode either, but I do like that one more so.
Yeah, because I think what we've got here is just... I don't think there's much material here. I think they just felt as though they had a...
Yeah, it feels like they're stretching it out, definitely, yeah.
Some Bender romance plot, bring back Flexo, and then it's just... I just feel like all the potential that the show has...
The other characters don't have much to do.
No, I was going to say, there's no real subplot here. There's only... The subplot consists of 1 or 2 scenes where they... Well, no, not really, because there's only one scene without Bender, and I think it's when Fred and the Professor are strolling through.
Yeah.
So we cut back to the crew. The scene starts, Bender enters the scene, so it's still sort of his plot.
Yeah.
There actually isn't really that's a funny scene.
That's another funny thing I do like about the episode, actually. The one subplot, maybe, is the Professor getting bent out of shape.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah, that's a classic bit.
I've always loved the ending with no Bender, you've bent him too far backwards, and Bender just kind of apathetically, sort of nihilistically, almost just I like him better this way. He just doesn't care, and he's in pain.
Yeah,
he's just totally indifferent to pain. Oh well.
Yeah.
Just it's raining. So I like him better this way. It's good. I like that bit.
Yeah, because the Professor's sad now.
Well, yeah. It's just.
Yeah, unfortunately the episode is not as... Yeah, it feels like it's a bit of padding in it. There's so much screen time to him and Angeline.
Yeah,
and
I've forgotten her name.
Yeah. If I hadn't just watched the episode, I would have forgotten it.
Yeah, I never remember her name.
She's not a very memorable character.
Nah, it's just... I don't know, what they... it's just there's not much they can do with this... sort of premise, and they just, I don't know, just given all the potential that the show has, they seem to sort of settle for less a lot of the time, or too much of the time, on an episode. It's more of a season 2 problem, when they're sort of exploring character backstories a bit more, do character-centric episodes, and they end up being sort of, sometimes a bit so-so, or at least... not among the strongest episodes of the season. It's the Zoidberg one's not so bad in the previous season, but the Hermes episode is kind of so-so. And they don't do much with the Professor episode, The Clone of My Own. It ends up being sort of... They don't do much with it until the end of it, I think. I don't think that's one of the finest instances of the program overall. But yeah, I feel like we get a lot stronger later in this season. And so far... almost certainly the weakest of the season thus far. I think the Sando episode was stronger than this one. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah. It is better than this one.
I can't think of much else to say here. It just kind of occurs. It's unique in that it barely has a subplot. There's one scene without Bender in it, and that's about it. It's entirely set on Earth. I mean, not that that's necessarily a problem, although you do. Again, it just goes to show that like, all the beautiful, amazing, wonderful things you can do with this show, and we'll just like have sort of some character-centric episode, like slightly, you do some slightly distinct, unique things within the sci-fi context, in that, Bender posing as an identical robot just by placing a beard, goatee prop on, and just to add to the sort of typical relationship hijinks you see in sitcoms.
Yeah, it's pretty typical old school kind of boring sitcom cliche in a way. It's like something out of Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem with this episode. It's a bit too like even that disguising hijinks of just like old sitcom formula.
Yeah, which, while utilizing like unique, sci-fi take, that it's robots who can look identical to one another, sort of pulling that off. It just still feels uncaptivating. And in terms of relationship hijinks within a sci-fi context, there's nothing that'll beat Put Your Head on My Shoulders, one of the great classics of the show. I've said before. Anyway, I might just close it here, given that there's nothing great revelation to share.
It's not the greatest.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone, now.